Hey there, Chris Bailing with AlleyTrak here. In this video, we're going to take a look at the process for creating and configuring league registrations in AlleyTrak. This is something you've been able to do for some time now, but we're getting into doing more of these, and I wanted to put together a guide on this process. So typically, when I help centers configure league and tournament registrations, we start by configuring this in your location settings. So on my account here, right, this facility has the ability to book for bowling, darts, escape rooms, mini golf, party room space. We have a pro shop, and then also tournament registrations. You could easily enough create another activity for league registrations, and those can have different booking requirements when you look at tournaments versus leagues. Tournaments, as an example, you might be registering players individually, and so you might have 3 people in one booking, so to speak, but they each have their own space out of a total maybe of 25 guests that are eligible to partake in that tournament. When we look at league registrations, you're usually registering people by teams, and so you might only be able to support 12 teams, and each team might contain 4 players on it. And so what we'll do when I'm helping centers configure leagues or tournaments is we'll go through and really kind of clone your primary booking activity. So if we're doing leagues for bowling, we would copy your bowling activity or space that you have. A lot of the settings that we have here really kind of remain the same, and we just start to make some modifications where needed. So one of those items is looking at lanes. Again, this may be a 24 lane center, but maybe for this league event, we only want 12 lanes to be available. Maybe we only want 12 teams to be able to register, so we would dial in what that number should be. If we were to look at a tournament registration, again, maybe this is 60 participants, and so we want to set that value to 60. We have the ability further down in our location settings to change the definition. Instead of being lanes, again, it could be participants. Same thing for like rooms, boards, courts. A lot of definitions around what a customer is actually booking that space for. And then a lot of our settings here can usually remain the same. We're going to go through and create a couple packages for these events, which allows us to specify the specific day, time, duration, booking requirements in that package level. But we'll just kind of skim through some of these settings and note any changes that we might want to make modifications to. Looking at payments, that's maybe something that you want to change, but you also have the ability to implement specific payment policies in the package level that you offer. So typically I leave that set as your default. Equipment rentals, if you offered that for bowling as an example for open play, you might just want to go and turn that off for your league activities. Not something that you would probably be accounting for, and so you can turn that off. But again, you can turn that off at the package level. Add-ons, same idea. Probably not going to offer any add-ons for leagues or tournaments, but if you do, you can offer them through the add-on manager. Also noting that add-ons would only be available for purchase if you made them available for the specific activity, so not also something you need to worry about. Typically, again, we configure these as packages, so we would set that to enabled, and then require package, we would want to set that enabled, which would prevent a customer from being able to book an open play booking of that, if you will. Lane configuration assignments, again, these can all be modified at the package level, but again, as an example, if we're doing a tournament registration, we would want to set this guest per lane to be 1. It is 1 guest per space. Each guest is a participant. That's how we would configure that for a tournament. For leagues, we might say 1 team, 1 space is 4 players, and so we want to set that to be 4 players. And then typically you would again say like the minimum and maximum players would be something like 1 to 4 or maybe 4 to 4. So the system just assumes there's 4 players that are registering for that league, and we're going to get the names of those through maybe something like booking questions, which I'll cover in just a minute. Then we can go through and really leave the duration requirements, the party size requirements the same again, because we can manage those at the package level. Then we can go through and look at some of our other settings here, maybe extending our maximum date that we want to allow customers to book for if we're going to book these and promote these registrations earlier in advance. And then let's see, I just want to scroll through and see if there are any other settings that we want to change. Again, what I'll typically do is set your reservation hours to close basically every day of the week, and then we're going to go through and create a custom hour entry that says on Tuesday, July 4th is the start date of this new league. That's the opening date. We'll create a custom hour for that, specifically for that date. The benefit for this is when we go into our customer portal, which I can show you in just a minute. If we go to our calendar, any date that we have marked as closed, we're going to see that grayed out and unselectable from the calendar view. So it just makes it a little bit easier. Also, AlleyTrak will preload that next available date for the customer, so it helps them kind of automate the booking process, and so they don't need to go hunt for a date, so to speak. And then we would set this reservation hours. You could do the same thing for your center hours. You could use your reservation hours, apply that really across the board. Same thing for open play. Now, lane definition is something we'd want to modify. Again, if we were doing a league, we'd probably set this as a team registration. If we are doing a participant for a tournament, we would define it as a participant, and something like that would work really well. And then, you have the ability to modify like your confirmation email messages that go out related to your teams, any waivers, any documents you need them to provide. You can provide that to them and they can get that back to you. Then we can submit and we have that location started. Now, custom hours, if you're not familiar, pretty straightforward to go through, and we can define the location that we're setting this for. So again, tournament registration, if I'm doing that example July 4th as an example, we can set our start date and end date, and then say this event is going to start maybe a 6 to 10 p.m. league event. Specifically on this date, that's when we're going to start this event, and then the customer can go ahead and book based on that requirement. Now, we'll go into packages, and I'm trying to keep this video brief, but we would then go through and start to create a package here. We can define this. I typically break these out by day, so then we might say, if we have a series that we're making, as an example, I bowl in a rum bucket league as a casual bowler league. That league at my facility operates 3 days a week, and so I might create one for Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays when this league is offered. We can create one to start, and then I can go in and click on actions and click clone, and then I can go in and really just modify the title and then modify the day when this package is available for booking. And this allows us to segment this particular day that a customer is registering for. Again, pretty standard configuration. We don't have to do too much here. Again, if we configured our guests per lane, we can use our default settings. We know what our duration for this event should be. We're going to say we need 4 hours for the event. And then we can set, again, our pricing format for this, which you would probably do something like a base rate, which effectively means for a customer to register, what is the price you want to charge them. If you're charging the full cost of the series, you can put that price in there. Sometimes centers will just do the first night's fee in there, and then they pay for that. And then moving forward, they're just going to pay when they get to the center. That's a very good strategy as well. Currently, we don't have a process in place that allows a customer to continually pay each week for that type of reoccurring event. So they would go through the current processes you have in place today to continually to charge the customer. But again, what we're usually doing in these configurations is we would set it to a specific date where the customer can go in and book. So again, if I set this to July 4th, I would set that as my start and end date. That is the only date that we are offering this Wednesday league event offering. It starts this date, and then there might be another one for the next day, or any other leagues that we have starting this season. So this is a really good way to configure this. Again, we would go through and mark all of these other days as closed, just so the system can manage that for us. The 4th is on a Thursday, so we can go ahead and mark this as closed. We would do something very similar to this, and then that's the time. Again, we had 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. as our availability for this. And this is the only time that they can book it. It would just be that one time, all events starting at 6 o'clock. Now, a couple other things we can do here to further improve this. If needed, you can go in and create booking questions. And so booking questions allow you to ask the customer any additional question that you want to ask as part of their booking requirement. And so you might ask a question once per party, which would be something like team name. I want to know the name of the team that they're registering for. We're going to make this required, and then we can set a character limit length. So we could say we want at least 4 characters. We don't want anything more than 20. That's just getting a little long. And then when we want to ask this, we're going to say we're going to do a specific event. We're not going to offer it for open play. We're just going to do a package, and then we would select the name of the league or tournament event that we create. And then we can go ahead and create this from here. Pretty straightforward. This is a text field, so the customer is going to fill out the name, their team name. Now we can also go back and then create another question, which we might ask per guest or participant. And so we might want to know the player name. And so if we ask this per player, we just really need to type in like player name. And AlleyTrak will automatically include player 1, and then you could do name realistically, but player name makes sense as well. And then again, you could do make this required, put in a character limit length, you might do 20 characters, and then specify the specific event where you want to ask. This is a multi-select, so if you do create multiple league events, you can select all of those as part of that question, and then they'll be asked that as part of their booking. Now, if you're not familiar with booking questions, I'll walk you through what this looks like as part of the customer checkout process. I'm just going to do this for a standard open play bowling activity. I'll go ahead and click view availability. Then we pick our time. Once the customer reviews their order details, we'll go ahead and click continue. And then at this point, AlleyTrak performs a check that says, does the customer or does this booking type require us to display any questions? And if that answer is yes, we'll display those questions to the customer. If the answer is no and that there are no questions to ask, we just route the customer to your terms and conditions. So when I click continue, there are questions that I have defined for the system to ask. And so one of those is, have you ever bowled? This is a question that gets displayed once per party. And then we have a question per guest, guest number 1, guest number 2, guest number 3, guest number 4, what is their name? And so we can fill out this information. Now, all of these questions are optional in my current configuration, but if you make them required, the customer will have to provide you some information for that. Clicking continue, then the customer will go to your terms and conditions, which they can review, agree, and then continue to the checkout process. So the booking questions can be very beneficial for you to get that additional information. Now, wrapping up here in the dashboard, when you have these events created, you'll be able to click view order details, and then you'll see the questions and answers provided by the customer. And then you can also do some reporting in booking questions, which allows you to view all of the questions and answers that have been asked, the specific order, which you can click on to review the order details. But then at the top right, you can click filter results, and you can go through and filter down by a specific question type. And so you can get that specific question, maybe everything related to, actually probably a better scenario would be filtering down by your event type, filter down by your specific package that you have, your Monday League as an example, and then you can export all of those questions and answers in this report and work with any of that data where you need it. Now, last thing to consider when doing leagues or tournaments, just general facility availability and the management of that. You'd want to go into locations and reservation blocks and potentially manage some of that availability. So as an example, for this tournament registration, I have a reservation block in effect, which is going to limit some availability. If we are doing a league event, I'm going to say Monday Rum Bucket, and we just want to be able to block out some availability. So let's say, again, we're doing lanes 1 through 12. So I'll just go ahead and select these lanes. I'm just keying that in my keyboard and hitting return real quick to select those. But we can also do select all if we needed those, and then we could just deselect the ones that we don't need. So pretty quick to make those selections. And then we can pick our time, right? So again, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then we can go in and set our repeating schedule. We want to do this once a week. This is a league event that operates, I keyed this in as Monday, so we could say starting June 10th, and then we can choose our end date and choose how far this is going to apply for. And we want to make sure we're applying this to the appropriate location, which in this case is correct. We want it to apply for bowling. We want to restrict these 12 lanes from being eligible to be booked because we have a league event that is using those lanes during that time. So this is a really effective way to manage your availability. And then you can also go in and create exclusions if and when you ever need to. Maybe the week of the 4th of July, you're not going to run leagues. You can add this exclusion, which lifts that block and makes your lanes available to book. So this video is currently running at close to 15 minutes. Creating and managing reservation league offerings is definitely a great way to add more capabilities to your reservation application. It's a great way to reduce some call volume for your center staff and allow customers to self-serve and do all of that registration online by themselves. And even further, you may already be doing some form of league registration through forms that customers can fill out on your website or something they can download and print off and bring in. Using something like AlleyTrak is a great way to manage that availability so you don't overbook for the number of spaces that you have eligible for league or tournament registrations. And it also helps customers kind of shop around for potentially different days that you have available for different offerings. So if you have any questions about leagues or tournament registrations, feel free to schedule a support call with me. The link to schedule a support call is going to be in this email that we send out for this, and I'd be happy to chat about league and tournament configurations with you, help you get something configured as well. Thanks so much for your time. We'll talk to you later.